Right, so it seems like Teleshare has made all the Transcend cards work, right? Which means we can start playing around with new. Well, some exception. Obviously, we don't know what Fang Strike or Slither is yet, so I'm going to say Undercurrent Desires doesn't quite work. But we have new, and we have our Nourishing combo, and I want to see how wacky we can get it in new and with the Wide Blue Yonder reaction, right? So the basic setup is, again, you just basically only playing Nourishing. You have a way to fish it automatically out of your deck, right? So in terms of a combo sense, it's guaranteed. And then as new, we just have a ton of ways to buff and cycle and look for some goodies. So the basic thing to do, probably to start off, would just be play the Tome and get rid of both of these cards, right? It's already an instant, so we don't have to worry about go again. It's just, this is really Tome of Ferendale on steroids, because you're already in blue, so the cost really doesn't matter. So we can do that. We get two more cards, but more importantly, we played a blue, so now all these will transcend. We have Shuffle and we have Gain of Life. Doesn't really matter, right? But we gain the Chi, also floating 2 resources, which means we can play our Nourishing. But since we have the Chi, we can go for a bit longer of a sequence, right? We can play each of the Graven's Calls, right? Or whatever weapon you run. Pass. Does 1, has Go Again, has Piercing, right? Then we can pitch the Chi. And basically, we can have a nice, hefty sequence along with topping off with the Nourishing. So now we have one left. What can we do? We play Toxic Tips, right? For some Blood Rots. We have Redback Shroud if we had any other attack reactions. We have the Premeditate, so we might as well pop that. And then we can do the Toxic Tips because we have the Chi. And then we can swing with Nourishing. Right, it's from the arsenal, so it gains the buff, it gains the Ponder token, and it's doing 9 with Dominate. So that is definitely not a bad turn, and I wouldn't say anything was super synergistic there, right? Obviously, we got the Premeditate off, but in terms of, weaving the Chi, we didn't quite do it effectively. We didn't get the buff from the Orion's Tome, nor did we make use of any of, the real impactful effects. But still, 9 with Dominate, plus then all the bonus effects, plus then Blood Rot off the Toxic Tips. And I think this is a workable start for what I want the combo to end up being in new. So I'm going to tweak the deck, find the right setup, and then we'll show off how disgusting it can get. Yeah, seems I've jumped the gun a little. So they have not programmed in Wide Blue Yonder yet, unfortunately, right? But all the Chi cards work, so we can play it as though we would, right? And then count the pitch stack ourselves. I think that's a fair call, right? We'll show it off once everything's released and everything's probably working, but there is some other fun stuff I think we can probably make work with the deck, right? So we'll go through that stuff as well. Well, it's not the most perfect setup, but again, I'm loving how flexible this deck is just because you have so many blue playable cards, right? So I can play Rising Sun and then I can use like Stir the Pot to get whatever card I put to the bottom back, randomly in the deck, but then also to get it as Transcend, which then allows me to just play Mask of Malicious Manifestation and Nourishing Emptiness right from the get-go, right, which is just so huge. And then I can even return it straight away with Preserve Tradition. I mean, that in itself is a great opener, and it's just one of the many possibilities. So you do Rising Sun, you check what card you get, right, which can we actually play? I mean, an extra +1, sure. Plus, then we get the Chi. Why not? So we'll send. I guess we'll send Stir the Pot back, right? That's not needed yet. Well, I guess we can't really play them. So you know what? We will send. We'll send. What was it? The Grain That Tips or something? I actually didn't read that. All right, but now, all right, we can play Stir the Pot, get our Chi, which is fine. The main thing is, an effect and then a 3. Right, you could even just pitch it as blue, that's fine too. But now we can go Mask, pitch the blue. We will actually keep the Spreading Plague because this is the idea that I really like, right? So create X Blood Rot tokens under the defending hero's control, where X is the number of defending cards this chain link. So for instance, if we sync the Preserve Tradition, I'm super tongue-tied, Preserve Tradition, right? We find Nourishing Emptiness because of the Mask of Malicious Manifestation. We can then play it. We've got the resources. We have our Redback Shroud, so we can play Spreading Plague or, right, substitute for Wide Blue Yonder in this scenario. Wide Blue Yonder is still, it's a slight plus. It's not huge, but still a slight plus. You really want to save it for the long sequences where you just have Chi and you're just cycling Nourishing back and back. But again, as an opening turn, I got to say this is pretty nice, right? 6 Dominate, so you're almost forcing them to play their equipment. And if they do, then you can Redback Shroud. And then you can play the Spreading Plague and, get possibly 4 Blood Rot, which is just huge because that's a lot of burn damage that they either have to keep their hand or sack the hand. And you're in new, so chances are they're not going to be trying to play as many blues as normal. So you'll probably end up getting a little bit of damage and still really draining their hand with the Spreading Plague. I think Blood Rot New could be quite interesting, and at least it's the variant I'm going to run. Now, this obviously wasn't the grossest opener, and well, aside from that, Preserved Tradition, I don't have any other cycling cards, but look at this. This is fine, right? This is a hand I'm more than happy with. We'll see if we can draw back the Nourishing, but I don't have any ways. I have like a few ways to actually dig, so we'll see. Right, so we could have also Toxic Tips. Do we have a resource? No, we didn't have a resource. Right, but throw that in. Another Blood Rot off of the Spreading Plague. So we'll take our damage. It's fine. What can we do? So opener, Gorgarian Tome. That works into a cash in. Our big trigger would probably be cash out. Cash out the 2 Graven Skulls just for 2 silver. Then we can play cash in. But, you know, this isn't so bad. We can do Preserved Tradition. We can't actually play the Grain that tips the scale because we don't have an attack chain active. So even though it's instanced, you know, you have to be able to select the target for it. We'll go through all the Transcend cards too now that we do know them, and we can sort of talk about their appeal. But again, just a naked tome, I'm more than happy with because it's still neutral draw and still stacking up that pitch. Now, obviously, we do want to get our card back, right? Our Nourishing Emptiness. So how would be the best way to do this? It would probably be the Orion's Tome. Right, 2 cards, get the chi, and then go from there. We'll try it. Again, we'll see how things pan out. We're trying to figure it out as we go. Do I want the cash in or Spreading Plague? We'll get rid of the Spreading Plague. We'll keep the cash in, see how deep we can end up digging, right? So that allows us then to draw a bunch more. We can now play Preserved Tradition, gain the effect, cycle back to Nourishing Emptiness because it's just a blanket effect, right? It's just awesome, right? It doesn't have a 2, it's already blue. In the Riptide deck, right, for Nourishing Emptiness, one of the big hurdles is having the resources to actually pay for your combos, right? Because outside of Premeditate, it's 3, Nourishing is 2, and then a buff card is 1. But if you look at all the cards you use to cycle back, Codex is yellow. If you were to use Strategic Planning, you'd have to run the red variant. If you use Memorial Ground, you have to run the red variant. Remembrance, yellow variant. This is a blue variant that also doubles as active chi straight away if you've played a blue card. And look at this, we just have a massive draw to combo now, right? So we can do Mage Master Boots. We can then play the Tome, pitch the chi, which is more than fine. Anything we draw, we can then play cash in. If we get cash out, we can cash out the daggers and play 1 for free, go more positive withdrawal, and I'm gonna draw back the Nourishing. And another good way to look at it, in fact, I can get rid of the Toxic Tips too if I really wanted, right? But 1 silver is not huge. We'll do that. 3, Graven Skull, we can even bring 1 back if we really wanted, right? So in that scenario, also with cash out, if you cash out both, you can bring 1 back straight away, which is fine because it gets a +1 counter, so it sort of makes up for getting rid of 1. But then you've also activated all the Transcend cards, which I think is, again, somewhat underrated. And I know I talk endlessly about cash out, but think about that, right? You're playing a blue card, you're getting the plus, which is almost better because, again, it's piercing, it stacks through. 2 is a nicer point than 1. And you don't have to pay for both costs, right? You've then activated all the Transcend cards, you can play them, you get the chi, and then you can go into just a massive draw engine like this, right? I can either just play the cash in, I can play Gain a Life, turn in chi, that's fine as well, right? These are just almost free cards. Yes, we're going to end up having a ton of blue in our deck, but that's fine because the other way to think about all these cards is they don't have a super impactful effect, right? They're definitely good, don't get me wrong, but they're not something you will absolutely miss, right? Where you want to save them. I would be more than happy for most of them to play them straight away. Now, the Sacred Arts, the big payoff ones, right? We're still waiting to see what Slither and Striker for new, but generally speaking, again, you'll probably want to play that as quick as possible. Get your blues and then go into your more efficient things, which, again, with Nourishing Emptiness in this setup, is all about cycling it back and really pumping its damage for value. So we've got 2, we've got chi, we can play cash in, don't even have to use the silver, we can just pitch the chi, done, right? A little bit more draw, we should get the Nourishing back now, right? We can even play the other one if I had more. We could then play more blue, build it up, again, go into White Blue Yonder, which would be a +5, right? Because we have to pitch 1 more for the Nourishing. We can still recoup a Graven Skull as well, right? It's just, the possibilities seem so great with this setup. It's going to be a really fun deck, I think, in my opinion. But yeah, so we can do Graven Skull. We can then pitch the chi. We could also pitch the chi in silver if we had, again, more cards to sift through. Like, it's funny. right? I've stacked the deck to try and get the combo off, but we're well below it because our draw range is just significantly higher. So we're doing 2 with piercing, which is fine. Go again is a big thing. It's just pushing extra damage. We stacked another blue, so again it would be, no, it wouldn't be +5, it'd be +4 because of the spreading plague, right? So if we had white blue yonder, but we don't, unfortunately. It's not quite active yet, so I'm looking forward to that. But now we can just Nourishing. Again, we still have the silver if we wanted to pitch and draw one more card, or we could just, I guess, cash in off the Nourishing. No, that doesn't really work. Anyway, we're playing Nourishing. It's a 6 with Dominate, because again, it's the only attack in the deck, which I'm more than happy with. Just even 6 with Dominate, with all the effects active, and then potentially going into other attack reactions, premeditates. You're going to get so many cards with this deck, right? Let's look at the list properly. So I feel like it's good payoff, and there are multiple lines you could run to make it work and have, you know, some fanciful effect happen. Now for the actual deck, right? So far we have the Transcend cards and we have some extra bonuses. So Shreds, obviously wonderful. With Dominates, they're going to be super impactful, right? Minus from armor, probably not minus from the one card they defend with, maybe. We'll see. Again, I like Blood Rot. So Codex of Blood Rot and Spreading Plague are probably the cards I'm going to run, because they just seem like fun effects to add to it. Again, if you sink all their armor, Spreading Plague becomes pretty massive, because again, it's defending cards, right? Rex number defending cards, yeah. So it doesn't have to just be cards from hands, it's actions, it can be equipment. We then have White Blue Yonder, which is the big thing, +1 for each blue card you pitch this turn. And then you have all the Transcend mechanics, and then you have the usual draw engines. And then once all that's empty, right, you'll just have Nourishing, you'll have Codex, you'll have all the other cards I usually run in Riptide, with Memorial Ground, Warmonger's Recital, all the ways to continuously cycle, and you'll have a much smaller deck that, if you pitch stack it correctly, you'll always be having that blue chi to then go into all your effects, to be able to play Nourishing and 1 buff. And every turn, you know, if it's averages out to an 8 with Dominate, I'm going to say you're pretty happy, plus then you have Newsability, right? So that's the real clincher, because Newsability in the right setting could just be massive, right? Reactions, attack, anything to chain together with that is fantastic, and they don't go to your graveyard because they go back to their graveyard. So you don't have to worry about playing extra attacks. This seems like it was made for new, and I'm so glad we found it before Misspell came out, because this is definitely what I'm going to mess around with the most. The Transcend cards, let's quickly look at that. Mystical Tenant, broken card, right? This almost should have been 1 and 2, but I can understand that being too weak and probably never be played then. But at 2 and 3, right? So again, even if you're just pitching 2 cards into it, sure, it's a -1, but you get to stack a blue. It activates all the other Transcend cards. That's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. When it gets to 3, that now makes it a positive draw that also floats resources, right? Well, I say neutral is positive, but again, depending on what you play with it, other draw engines, you can definitely make it positive draw, which is another huge thing, and we talked about endlessly with Melody. So it is a super impactful, powerful card, whether or not it's activating Transcend cards or you're using them to pay for this. And then you have all the Transcend cards. So we have Gain 1 Life. Again, it's an okay effect. Either way, right? You're basically playing it as a blue resource. Whether or not you flip it and get the chi, it's still a blue resource. Gain 1 Life isn't huge, but it's okay. Same with Preserved Tradition. I like the effect for this deck. The effect works wonders, but a single action card isn't really going to make or break most decks. The draw 1 cycle is definitely fantastic. Rising Sun, Setting Moon. I wouldn't be surprised if this is, you know, one of the best Marvel cards, potentially, just because it's so flexible. Stir the Pot, Shuffle is okay, right? Pitch stacking is becoming a much more developed mechanic that a lot more people are thinking about, right? It's sort of the crux of drawing and how card economics worked in early TCGs, right? And the Playbase figuring that out. So not as good, because I can see most people not liking to shuffle their stacked deck early on. If you can just get it off and then, you know, have it for the chi, fine. The Grain that tips the scale. Now, these are a bit more problematic because they have direct target. So you can only play this if you have an active chain link, or I guess your opponent has an active chain link and you want to give their attack +1. So because of that scenario, it can be a little bit more tricky because it's reactive, right? You don't get the benefit of the chi or pay unless you're doing combo things, which is fine. Again, Assassin is more combo-y than what we're doing, just pouring everything into Nourishing Emptiness. Then we have a Drop in the Ocean. Target tech gets -1. Again, same sort of thing. Could still proc it on your own to get the chi, get the benefits, activate blue, whatever you want. And then we have Pass Over, bash target card from opposing hero's graveyard, made for new, right? It doesn't really have much upside in either of the other two, aside from, you know, getting rid of one card. But graveyard reclaiming isn't a huge thing, and against certain matchups, right, this could also be negative because there are some that like to play from their banish zone. I don't know what this card does. I should probably try and look a little bit deeper, but I can only find the Japanese spoiler, so we'll leave that be. Sacred Art, we don't know what Strike and Slither are. Bash 2 cards, again, fantastic for new and Transcend. And then White Blue Yonder. Definitely the linchpin that I'm going to try and make work. In a vacuum, it's probably not super strong, right? Because again, to make it super impactful, you're looking to probably have a stack of like 3+ cards, right? Because then it averages out to better than most other reactions you could run, right? Razor Reflex, Premeditate, Plunder Run, all the other sort of buff cards, right? Red is usually 3, 2 for yellow, 1 for blue. So you'd want it to be, you know, 2+, maybe 3+. So you would have to, you know, again, pitch sizably, which isn't really an assassin thing. It's not really either of the three. Maybe it's more illusionist, but generally speaking, you're playing your cards rather than pitching them. But in this combo, obviously it works wonders. So a little bit of testing. But yeah, 2 lines of thought, either White Blue Yonder Nourishing or Spreading Plague Nourishing, or just both, and we'll see how it pans out. Cash out from the Graven's Call, seems like a great line. Get 1 back, activate your Transcend, a Redback Shroud just to then play White Blue Yonder or Spreading Plague. But again, if you're using a blue card, a chi card, right, Nourishing is 2, covers the cost of the other reaction, and then there's plenty of 0 costs like Premeditate for you to play in conjunction. There are some 1 costs as well. So being in blue is much better than being in yellow, as we are majorly for Riptide. Codex to cycle back Nourishing. Shreds just to shred and get the damage through, because the Intellect is also going to pay off hugely in this style of deck. And yeah, we'll have to see what other cards Assassin gets in Mistfell, but it's already taken shape, and that's what we like to see. Hope you enjoyed. So yeah.